Hi, welcome to Business Forward. This is Travis Markwood with the Lancaster-Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce, and we're here today at Working Partners in Canal Winchester. And I have with me Dee Mason, founder and CEO of the organization. Dee, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. We're going to be talking a little bit about what Working Partners does. I know the Chamber's had some experience with them and some different programming that we've done. And so, Dee, tell me, how did you get the organization together? Like, how did you found the organization and why?
Oh, wow. It's been a long time. So it's been about 28 years. That's how old we are. And we really started because of the Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1988, where anyone who got a grant from the federal government, or if they had contracts of $100,000 or greater, had to comply with the Drug-Free Workplace Act. Well, that caused our city of Columbus to decide they wanted to comply. And with that, they wanted to educate 7,500 workers of the city.
Sure.
And it was like they didn't exactly know where to start. I was called to the table because of training background.
Okay.
And that's when I learned about the act. From there, we went, oh my golly, we got through that contract, and it was great. Learned all about the act and went, oh, there are a lot of people that are going to be impacted by this.
Sure.
And as we dug in deeper, we found that particularly the small and mid-sized businesses were really going to be impacted, and they had the least amount of resources or knowledge where to turn.
Sure.
So we created Working Partners to really help small and mid-sized businesses understand how they could prevent and respond to the substance misuse or substance use disorder.
Sure. So you can see definitely where the need spawned from. And then how big was your team when you first got started?
Oh, it was myself, and I think I had part of an admin person.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's how most small businesses get
Oh,
started.
yeah. I know the pain.
Yeah. So how quickly did you ramp up? Did you find that once you got started working with organizations, all of a sudden you said, wow, there's a real demand for this, and you had to get ramped up pretty quickly? Or
We're one of those stories, probably like lots of your members. It's I didn't have capitalization, so I begged, borrowed, and steal, and worked with folks. And really, ramping up was trying to help understand and help the market understand what was available and what was needed and what was required, and then being reactive, responsive when
Right.
an employer went, "Oh,
Right.
I got to do what?"
Right.
Yeah, so gradually, it's been a gradual growth. We have probably asserted our place as like the leader in the whole thing. I would say like from 1997 forward,
Okay.
we've really been recognized as a leader in the state
Okay.
in this.
And you work with companies all over the state, is that right?
We do. We work with about 1,700 employers or companies per year,
Oh, wow.
and those might be a different 1,700 next year. But we also work with systems. So, for example, we were called to the table by the state of Ohio to help them define the whole workers' comp discount program. Or recently, there's, and I think you're participating,
Yeah.
the Lancaster-Fairfield County Chamber is participating with the Ohio Chamber, has the
Yes.
Ohio opioid toolkit
Yes,
for
that's
employers.
correct. Yes.
So we're called to the table to work with large systems also.
Okay, interesting. You mentioned 1,700 organizations that you're making contact with each year, helping in all different kind of ways, and I know we're going to learn a little bit more about all the things that you do provide. Do you find that there's a segment or a type of industry that you tend to support more than others?
Excellent question. In not too far ago, it used to be construction had difficulties, manufacturing had difficulties, the food industry.
Sure.
And usually what you're looking at is where there is disposable income. There is maybe an industry with high turnover and low training, right? Those things have all shifted some. And what you'll find now in the statistics are that some industries are much higher in abuse of alcohol.
Okay.
Some are much higher in the abuse of illegal drugs.
Okay.
They vary.
Okay, interesting. Now, once you start to work with a client, how long is that relationship? I mean, I know you do a myriad of things, but you typically create a relationship, and you probably consult with that person for a few years, right?
Absolutely. When we're working with it, we consider from the time we start with an employer, we are on call to them. So we provide direct consultation, training, and support services for and let me qualify this, not just drug-free workplace, a lot of people don't know what that is, but drug responsible. When you think about today's world, we're all bombarded by drugs. Alcohol is a drug, prescription drugs are a drug, illegal drugs, and they don't stop at the door of a workplace.
Right.
So they come in, or my child or my husband or whatever.
Right.
Well, employers are being impacted by that, and they're being impacted, accidents, workers' compensation, by loss of productivity, by absenteeism, and et cetera.
Right.
So when an employer says, oh, I don't know what to do with this, and I need help, then we begin the consultation process.
Right.
We really help them set up operations. Then it kind of goes up on a shelf. They know the basics, but they don't deal with it every day.
Right.
So when they have to deal with it, they
Yep.
pick up the phone. We've got their programs right there,
Right.
and we counsel them against their programs,
Right.
which is called troubleshooting. And
Sure.
I think that's probably one of the best things that
Yeah.
companies get out of working with us.
Well, absolutely. And you can imagine a small business that's dealing with something like this in their workplace and not having an HR department. And,
gosh.
that's a scary thing. If you do it the wrong way, I mean, there can be legal ramifications. There can be a lot of different things that is very scary to a small business. Frankly, done the wrong way, it could put them out of business.
Absolutely, and it should be scary because it really, it's one of the biggest safety hazards that we have, or health hazards that we have right now. We're all recognizing that due to media and et cetera, attention. So it's like, we think a drug-free, drug-responsible workplace program or operations is as systemic as learning your P&L sheet. We
Sure.
think it's
Yeah.
critically important.
Part of the toolkit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure getting to know a little bit about the company. I know we'll talk to you a little later, I'm sure. But I know that you have, who you referred to in an earlier conversation, your boots on the ground.
Absolutely.
Karen Pierce is your managing director, and we're going to talk with her a little bit more in depthly about what exactly some of these programs are.
Absolutely, she'll tell you an earful.
Excellent.
Thank
Let's
you
go
very
talk to
much,
Karen.
Travis.
Okay.
At Dagger Law, we have more than 110 years of combined expertise in nearly every part of law.
What I think sets us apart from any other law firm is our ability to work together.
With us, you're getting a trusted partner, in addition to a team who can help you with a growing business, changing family, planning your future, or dealing with land issues.
It's a challenge every day, and you meet an awful lot of nice people.
Your case matters. We'll take the time and the energy to ensure that you have a quality experience, quality representation.
Whatever you need, we have a lawyer who can help. Dagger Law. Local, trusted, experienced.
Welcome back to Business Forward. Again, this is Travis Markwood with the Lancaster-Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce, and we're in Canal Winchester at Working Partners, and joined now by Karen Pierce. She's a managing director here at Working Partners, and we wanted to take a little bit of a dive into some of the programs and really, what are the services that you guys offer here. We talked a lot about how you work with small businesses, but in particularly, what do you do with these small businesses when they have either an urgent need, or sometimes it's a, preemptive, planning through some of their work time issues.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Dee told you how long we've been in business,
Yeah.
and the core of what we do hasn't changed a lot, really. Our kind of bank
Sure.
of products and services. What has changed are the issues.
Yeah.
So sometimes the way those products and services are put into place change a little bit because
Sure.
of the changing terrain, if you
Sure.
would. But if you take a look at the things that we do, we can usually categorize them in 5 or 6 categories.
Okay.
So we do policy development, which is kind
Sure.
of the cornerstone of it all. It's hard to do anything around substance misuse in the workplace without having a good policy.
Okay.
So the policy, and one of the things we say about policy, it really needs to be a nice blend between what's legally sound.
Sure.
And we're not attorneys, but we've got one that sits on our shoulder all the time, so it's gotta
Right,
be
right.
legally sound. And it has to be operationally sound also.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough just to say, don't do drugs. We need to know what to do if we see signs, et cetera. So
Sure.
policy products, whether it's a company of one who needs to have a policy to get on a state job
Sure,
because of
sure.
a mandate in Ohio, or whether it's a company who's got locations across the country, we do policy development.
Okay.
State-specific
Okay,
policy
yes.
development. Another category of service that we do that's probably 2 together is employee education and supervisor training in all different flavors.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Used to be that we carried a marker and a whiteboard, and now with the change of technology,
Right.
we do web-based courses.
Okay, yeah.
That are live. live. We do on-demand courses that people can take 24/7,
Right,
et cetera. We teach people how to do their own training, so
Okay.
all kinds of different
Yeah.
flavors. We also do a buying group of sorts that we call our consortium. And the
Okay.
consortium really is a way to leverage numbers of small businesses so that we can afford a small business the same cost for testing,
Okay.
same cost for employee assistance that some of the large companies might get because of their
Right,
size. So
right.
a buying group of sorts. We also, with that consortium, can do what Dee talked about earlier, which is that day-to-day hand-holding and troubleshooting
right,
of,
right.
oh, you had an accident, or oh, you smell some alcohol in somebody's breath.
Right.
That hand-holding to walk them through the policy.
Okay, interesting. So, you mentioned about policy. When you talk about policy, is this just, your standard handbook or, because sometimes it's easy to put something in writing, but it's very difficult to execute it when it's needed to be executed. So I'm sure you've worked through, every company's a little different in terms of scale and needs, and I guess they're all
So
customized,
different.
right?
They are customized, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. They think that maybe they can just pull one offline and
Right.
insert their own name, but there are so many differences. For example, the small and large. Do you work outside of the state? Do you have employees that are governed by an authority like the Department of Transportation? Do you have a union? So there are all kinds of different issues. And then there are the corporate issues of how do you feel about random testing? Do you want a random test? Do you not want a random test?
Right.
In this day and age, now we're dealing with Ohio House Bill 523, which legalized marijuana as medicine in certain
Right.
circumstances. So that's another customizable policy. How do you want to handle that?
Right.
What do you want to do
'Cause-
if somebody says they
Right,
have a
because some
card?
of it I understand is really the employer has to make some decisions as to how they want to handle it, right?
They really
It's not
do.
all law, right?
They really do. Ohio's law is very different than other states because it does give the employer, unless they're regulated by an authority that says absolutely not,
Right.
it does give the employer and the employer has to make a decision as to how they're going to
Sure.
respond to an employee who may say, oh, I tested positive because I have a card.
Right.
Because my doctor said that I could use
Sure.
it. So that is a policy decision. And I think one of the things that Working Partners really tries to do
Mm-hmm.
is to get in those trenches and really understand the culture of the business,
Mm-hmm.
how safety sensitive they are, how much travel, how much public image do they need to deal with.
Yeah.
To write a policy then that is not just legally sound, but will work operationally.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things we really want to be sure we do with drug and alcohol issues is take them out of the gut and into the head.
Gotcha, yeah.
I don't want to handle a problem based on how I feel about the person or how
Right.
desperate I am for a worker. I really want to say, this is what my policy says.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. It's legally sound. It's right for our culture.
Yeah.
It makes life a little easier.
Right. Difficult for a small business because to getting those
Difficult.
emotions and feelings out of somebody that you work with every day that's just across the shop and there's 5 people there is a little different in feel, maybe in scope, than the company that's got 3 shifts of 50 people working, or 100 or
Absolutely.
200 people out that you just don't know everybody.
Right. And the person's my nephew.
Yeah, that's-
Right,
that's the
with
problem,
family
too.
owning. Yeah,
Sure.
it is. It is so. And drug and alcohol issues are emotional, anyways.
Right.
So we really strive to acknowledge the emotion, but write a policy that's rational but makes sense for
Yeah.
that particular
Yeah.
organization.
Now, you guys, you said get in the trenches, and you really do. So you will go
We
on
do.
site, you'll take a look at the work environment, you'll be out in the shop where manufacturing and things are happening. What do you do when you get out there?
Yeah, well, we'll do it in hairnets at food service.
Yeah.
Have to wear the hairnets at the middle
Yeah.
of the night too, that third shift.
Sure.
We do a lot of on-site employee education and supervisor training.
Okay.
So we will go to the site 3 shifts, middle of the night, weekends, depending
Okay.
on the shift needs. We also will go on site to do consultation during that policy development process. We'll do at the client's location also, if
Yeah.
the need be.
Look in the workspace. Do you help consult with signage in the organization? Like what
We
should be posted,
do.
what shouldn't be posted,
We
right?
do. A couple things. Primarily is we want applicants to know as soon as possible where the company stands on these issues.
Right.
So we've designed signage for the door that just
Reminders,
declares,
yeah.
reminders that we're
Yeah.
a safe and drug-free workplace and that
Yeah.
we test.
Yeah.
So we can give that heads up to applicants.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you find yourself in a lot of different size companies, different industries. I'm sure you've seen it all.
A lot of different industries and a lot of different philosophies and a lot of different opinions. And I think like I mentioned before, it's really important to understand what's driving the company as far as their opinions and their myths. There's a lot of myths out
Sure.
there about substance misuse. One
Sure.
quick example with the Ohio House Bill 523 and the marijuana law is we've got some people who are running companies now who only know the marijuana of their youth, where the
Right.
THC content was
Right.
very, very low.
Sure.
Not the same marijuana as an
different,
example that we
yeah.
see today. So there's just a lot of opinion, myth,
Sure.
that we need to get to in order to write that policy that everybody can live with.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, that's certainly informative. Love the how you get in there and get your hands dirty and work with these companies. Working with small businesses through the Chamber of Commerce, I recognize these types of needs all the time. So,
Sure.
Great opportunity for businesses to have a partner with Working Partners in working through some of these. So, really appreciate that time talking with you. I know we want to wrap up our final segment here and talking a little bit more with Dee and Karen about what it looks like when you first consult with Working Partners and what that experience should be expected.
Hi, my name's Josh Lazier with the Lancaster Fire Department, here to talk to you about Narcan. Narcan is the light in the darkness of the opioid epidemic. It's a medication designed to rapidly reverse opioid overdoses. It can very quickly restore normal respirations to a person whose breathing has slowed or stopped as a result of overdosing with heroin or prescription opioid pain medications. It can be carried by police, EMTs, firefighters, even family members. While Narcan stops the effects of an overdose, it does not stop addiction and is not a cure. If there are opioids in your home, Narcan should be there too. Narcan is considered to be a very safe drug and can save lives. And in Ohio, it's available without a prescription. Your life matters, and we're here to help because you matter.
This message is brought to you by the Fairfield County Adam H. Board.
Hi, welcome to the Young Professionals segment of the show. This is brought to you by Cryle Communications, and we're here today with Morgan Mitchell. She's the marketing assistant for Working Partners. And Morgan, welcome to the show and the Young Professionals segment. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you work for Working Partners, and how long have you been with them?
Just over 2.5 years now.
Okay, 2.5 years. And what are the things that you're responsible for there?
I started as a marketing intern there, and then I just was brought in for a special project and kind of expanded my role. So now I help with a wide variety of things, from social media to helping with the marketing meetings and strategizing, kind of things like that with the team.
Okay.
So,
Design new collateral and things like that as well? or-
yeah, I work a lot with Lauren to help her kind of run things in the marketing department. So
Okay.
we work on newsletters and things to go out to our members every month and things like that.
Okay. Now, is this your first career, or did you have a career before this, or this is you interned and this is it for right now, right?
Yep.
Good.
I started as an intern, and it was supposed to be a short-term thing, and then it just kind of grew and grew, and now they have me. So
Good deal. Good
Yeah.
deal. That's awesome. Give us a little bit about your background. I know we got to chat a little bit before the show, so you're not exactly from the Central Ohio area, but we're glad to have you here now. But you're a little bit of a transplant, right?
Yeah, I'm a transplant.
Okay.
I started in Bowling Green area-ish in a really small town, and then left and did some time at Ohio State Lima campus, and then moved to Hilliard to finish up some Ohio State schooling, and then eventually transferred to Columbus State for my associates. So bounced around a little bit, but yeah.
And you're working on, you have a communications degree, is that right?
I have an associate's degree.
Okay.
I'm working on the full bachelor's for communications, but yep, that's the path that I'm going with.
Okay, awesome. So with that communications degree and working with Working Partners, do you do any volunteer work in your spare time, or are you involved in any other organizations?
I'm not really involved with any other organizations, but I do nanny for 2 little boys over here in the Pickerington area,
Okay.
so it keeps me pretty busy between work and working with them. So
Absolutely, that's a second full-time job
Yeah.
as it is, right?
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, good deal. How about things that you like to do in your spare time?
I like to travel a lot. I go to Chicago pretty frequently. I visit my family up north quite a bit. I like to cook a lot, so I do a lot of that, but a lot of creative things that I enjoy, which is kind of why I enjoy doing what I do at Working Partners. So, yeah.
Good deal, good deal. Well, I'm sure they're glad to have you there, and it's been nice talking to you for the Young Professional segment.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, again, that's been Morgan Mitchell. She's the marketing assistant for Working Partners, and you've been watching the Young Professional segment of Business Forward, and now on to the rest of the show.
As a company of young professionals, Cryo Communications is proud to sponsor this segment. We specialize in helping businesses and organizations get the right message to the right audience, at the right time, and in the right way. To learn more about Cryo Communications and how they can help you with your communication needs, visit them at cryocommunications.com.
Welcome back to Business Forward. Again, I'm Travis Markwood with the Lancaster Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce, and we're here at Working Partners in Canal Winchester. And in this final segment, we have both Dee and Karen here, and we wanted to talk. We've talked a lot about the organization, how it got started, the services that you offer, but what we haven't touched on yet are what are today's trends looking like in terms of the workforce and drug abuse and things that we're seeing out there. What's the environment look like today?
Wow, I'm going to let you take this.
Yeah.
We have to start with just the increasing number of people who are using illicit drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
in general, on the rise.
In general, when you take a look at the research, it's interesting because when you look at the younger people, the 12 to 17-year-olds, the rate of use is actually decreasing, which is pretty exciting because these days we have evidence-based ways to do prevention work, like in the schools, etc. But when you look at that 18 to 25-year-old population, which is always the high-risk population, you can see a lot more people using. If you look at the question of have you used an illicit drug in the past month, almost a quarter of that population has used an illicit drug in the past month. If you take a look at 26 and older, there's an increase in use in that population as well. So if you just start there, a lot more people are using illicit drugs.
Our young working population.
I mean, the young population.
That's when you're first getting serious about a career, hopefully.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of those careers that attract younger people that aren't as assertive with drug-free workplace, food service, hospitality, etc. So another thing then that just follows right along with that as far as a current trend is the increasing rate of positive tests in the workplace. It's unbelievable. One of the largest drug testing facilities, Quest Diagnostics, started doing research back in the 80s and charting what percentage of the tests that they were running were positive. And if you look at that research, the rate of positives went down. We got our lowest rate at about, we didn't see any increases any years. About 2012, we saw our lowest point ever. From that point on, year after year, we're seeing consecutive increasing rates of positive tests. So when we hear employers say, we can't find people who can pass a test, there is some data to show that it's year after year an increase. We never saw that. So those are two big, just solid trends.
Another thing I think that really comes into play is that most of us are hearing a lot about the opioid epidemic. And it is absolutely serious and it's for real. But what we're tending to lose track of and what, like Quest Diagnostics and what we're seeing statistically is that employers right now are seeing a terrible increase in cocaine and methamphetamine. So that is going up, and quite often we'll see employers who will focus on opioid and they think that's what they're dealing with, and they lose track of, wait a minute, all these other things. You talked about medical marijuana and all the other things. What we're looking at, safety and health, we're looking at what can compromise the employee's ability to react, respond, to think through things, that kind of stuff. And any of these substances can. The beauty of a drug responsible operation is that it doesn't matter which drug of choice it is. If you've got a program that really addresses, when you see this, you do this. And this is how you protect the employees, this is how you protect your bottom line, then it doesn't matter which drug, kind of thing. So that's important, I think, for your audience to know.
Absolutely. In talking with my chamber members, it is a real fear of theirs right now, finding employees. And Fairfield County's unemployment rate is just barely over 3% right now, some of the lowest it's been in forever, and that makes a very tight labor pool, and so a lot of companies, I have to assume, are even afraid to get too aggressive with their drug policies.
We told you that we've been in business for 28 years, and for 28 years we have had employers tell us, well, I can't do that because if I have anything that involves drug testing, I won't have any employees. And what we now know, there's really good news for employers, and that is the fact that what we used to think of was a weakness or a moral decision, et cetera, an employee who did drugs and, oh my gosh, they're bad and get them out of here and et cetera.
Right.
Now what we know is how to deal with that. What is the science behind that? And it works well, I think, for an employer to understand that because of science now, we understand that we can deal with substance misuse or substance use disorder just the same way we can heart disease or diabetes. And we wouldn't restrict somebody from working with that. There are certain things we have to do, and those the same thing with this substance misuse.
Sure.
So, Karen, don't you?
Oh, I totally agree. I think when we were talking to current trends, when you take a look at the opioid epidemic, and it's scary,
Yeah, sure.
and we take a look at the increasing rates of positive tests, it really has forced that employer into rethinking or thinking for the first time, what am I going to do with a positive test? It's one thing to try to recruit new workers in this type of a tight labor pool time, but what do I do with my current employee who tests positive? Do I terminate them, which we actually know is a lot more expensive
Right.
because of rehiring, retraining, et cetera, or do I offer a second chance? And I think some of the things that Dee's talked about, offering a second chance, a lot of employers don't understand that treatment does work if it's done the correct way, and that they can minimize their risk and actually increase the prognosis of the employee doing well if they put systems in place at their workplace. Their policy is good. They've got a good assistance agreement. They've got a good referral relationship with the counseling agency. That the employer can actually do things to increase the prognosis of that treatment with the employee.
Yeah. It has to, it has to be much easier to retain employees rather than just cycle through new employees all the time just because, of a mistested, drug test or something like that. I think anytime you can retain an employee for a longer period of time, they create more affinity towards that organization and become a better employee. So in the long run, I'm sure that all those services help.
There are statistics that actually we could pull out we didn't bring to the table, but the punchline is someone in recovery, and that's what we call it if they've gotten a second chance, that they actually have a better attendance record than somebody that never had an issue to start with. And they have higher productivity, they have less use of medical benefits, and they are much more loyal. If they choose to stay and work against accountable programs put into place by the employer, they usually are very, very loyal and very good workers.
Excellent. Well, we're starting to wind down here, and before we do so, what if someone contacts you? What should they expect the process to be? How do you consult with organizations?
Well, we're going to do a lot of fact finding first of all because we don't want to do anything cookie cutter. So one of the first things we're going to do is just to do some good old question asking. What do they have right now? What are their goals? What are their objectives? What are any obstacles they're facing? So we do a needs assessment of sorts to figure out what's the best approach for them. We really are committed to meeting them where they are. And suggesting where they should be or could be, and then finding out where the differences are and how to navigate that.
Sure thing.
And educating. I think that's
Lots of
critical. The
education.
employer really needs to understand, you're not going to a class, but if you just get some of the basic information, it's like, oh, now I know what I'm working with.
Right. Excellent. Well, as we wind down here, what's the best way to reach out, learn more about Working Partners, or get a hold of you guys?
An emailer can do mail@workingpartners.com.
Okay.
If you want to pick up the phone instead, it's 614-337-8200. If you want to do some fact finding on the web, it would be workingpartners.com.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Dee and Karen, it's been a pleasure being here and talking with you. We certainly appreciate your partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and certainly the services that you're providing to all our small businesses here in Lancaster and throughout Fairfield County.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you
Thanks
for
a
having
lot.
us.
All right, folks, that's been this edition of Business Forward. This is a partnership in production with Interface Video and the Lancaster Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce. Until next time.